You might remember this rifle from my Good Enough for SHTF budget-friendly AR-15 video. This is an AR stoner built on an Aero Precision lower. And in that video, I talked about how I had some reliability concerns with this particular rifle, especially when it came to overgassing and consistent and reliable extraction and things of that nature. So what I wanted to do was show you how you could fix some of those issues and bring your budget-friendly or entry-tier AR-15 into a very reliable situation. Except for the fact that I don't actually show you how to improve the reliability of this rifle. So this video concept originally started out with the idea of showing you 2 budget-friendly upgrades you can do to any entry-level AR to enhance reliability. And of course, I got those parts from Midway USA, who's the biggest supporter of the channel, and I appreciate their help with this project, but things just didn't go as planned, and this rifle might just be a POS in all honesty. The first thing I did was get a Battle Arms Development H buffer, which is a 3.8 ounce buffer. The heavier the buffer, the slower the cyclic rate of the bolt will be, which is supposed to help with overgassing. And then the second part that I got was the BCM SOT-Mod Bolt Upgrade Rebuild Kit, which is a great way to enhance the extraction of any bolt that you're using, especially if you have an entry-level or budget-friendly bolt carrier group. Now, I did an entire install video for that, but it wasn't worthy of this video because things didn't do what they were supposed to, but I don't blame the BCM SOT-Mod Bolt Upgrade or Rebuild Kit at all. So I'm actually gonna post that video separately in case you wanna learn how to install that on any BCG. I'll show you, and that way you can enhance reliability of your BCG, but apparently not mine. So this whole thing fell apart because I do these upgrades and I show you how it's supposed to work in the sense of installation, but then this happens. All right, now that we've got those 2 upgrades installed, let's shoot this rifle and see if we've actually improved the functionality and reliability of this weapon. And of course, if for less than $60 you can get all those little kinks worked out of the system, I think that's great information to share with anybody who's got a budget-friendly or entry-level AR-15 that they might want to ensure is a little bit more reliable. So all the magazines we're using today are Magpul P-Mags. They're proven, they work, they have a track record of reliability, so that takes that factor out of the questionability, I guess, when it comes to whether or not the magazines are the culprit for any issues. And then all the ammunition is Winchester M193. So it's Lake City ammo, M193. You got the full pressure, you got brass cases. We're not shooting any steel case, tool, or anything like that. So let's just start shooting some rounds down range and see if we encounter any reliability issues at all. And then I guess we'll just develop an opinion after that. So is 60 bucks the magic number or less than 60 bucks? Let's find out. And yes, everything was clean and properly lubricated as well to give the rifle as much of a chance as I could because I want it to actually work. I don't want it to fail. On the very first round, we had a malfunction. So, right there we had a fail to go into battery. Let's clear that. Try that again. Looks good now. Okay. Now we've got stovepipe. So, all right, we got the standard carbine buffer back in here, 3 ounces, all right? Originally felt like this rifle was overgassed, but I don't know, maybe the SOT-Mod Bolt Upgrade Rebuild Kit actually fixed the initial issues we were having and the buffer was always just fine. Let's find out. Lock open on empty. So we try another mag. Give her a go. Should we keep going? I think so. one more go with the H buffer, just to make sure there just wasn't a fluke there in the very beginning. The ejection pattern with the standard buffer was a little bit towards the 2 o'clock or so, which is a little overgassed. Let's see what we can do with this now. Just a little bit sluggish. Lock open on empty. Well, we got through that mag no problem. So what I'm thinking is that we probably want to go ahead and test it a little bit more, just in case there's any weird issues there. But the ejection pattern for the H buffer actually looks pretty decent. It's just not getting a lot of distance. So I'm just not sure if that's maybe the ejector itself, but all in all, we're getting through magazines reliably. So let's give it another go. H buffer installed. Stovepipe it is. All right, the standard 3-ounce carbine buffer is back in, and honestly, I think this just might be where it needs to be. The SOP mod bolt upgrade and rebuild kit, and everything else remains the same, and it seems like we've got some decent reliability, so let's give it a go. Lock open on empty. And I think for the purposes of science, we probably need to just mag dump this thing, right? Make sure there's no more stovepipes or anything like that. Why not? It's science. There it is. Stovepipe again. All right, I threw an H2 buffer in here just to give it a little extra weight, just to see what would happen, because now I'm just a little bit curious. So let's see how it goes. Those rounds are coming out real sluggish. So back to the carbine it is. All right, so even after the BCM SOP mod bolt upgrade and rebuild kit, as well as testing out 3 different buffer weights, we still don't have reliability in this rifle. So we're going to the final solution, which is a whole nother bolt carrier group, one that's proven and has worked flawlessly in other rifles that I own, a BCM bolt carrier group. Now, there could be issues with the other bolt carrier group. It could be a loose or out of spec gas key. It could have issues in the sense of the ejector. I'm just not sure, but at this point in time, those 2 first upgrades should have at least helped with the reliability of other entry-level AR-15s if they have quality bolt carrier groups already inside. But apparently this one, at least in my opinion, most likely did not. But we're gonna find out, because it could actually just be the rifle itself. And in order to find out, we gotta shoot it. So Magpul P-Mags, these are Gen M3s with M193, same as before, nothing has changed in that regard. We're just going to put it through its paces, and if this BCG fixes the problem, then I'm gonna have some thoughts for you here that we need to discuss. So, first and foremost, let's see what happens this time. Wish me luck. Bolt hold open on empty. Shall we give it another go? I think so. For science is what we're trying to become a very scientifically related channel. Don't worry about that one. That one will be fine. All right. One more full mag. I think it's reasonable. Bolt hold open on empty. Now, these mags were loaded to 28 rounds, as were the previous mags. Why? Well, to give it a little bit of extra help when it came to that initial feeding. And as you saw, originally that very first round had a malfunction post-upgrade. This bolt carrier group doesn't seem to be having any issues. And we have the standard carbine buffer weight in here once again, the 3 ounce, not the 3.8H or anything like that. So let's talk about what this would mean, I guess. All right, so what did we learn? Well, even after the BCM SOTMOD bolt upgrade rebuild kit and 3 different buffer weights being put into the system, we still didn't have a reliable rifle until we fully swapped out the bolt carrier group, which gives me some things to discuss. And there's some things I definitely want to address when it comes to people who might be buying their very first AR-15 or people who are new to owning an AR-15. And especially for some of those out there who have a lot of experience with these rifles, there's some thoughts I want you to consider when it comes to suggesting budget-friendly or entry-level rifles for everybody when it's not always the best bet. So I replaced the bolt carrier group. It likely had a leak in the gas key, or maybe it was just out of spec in general. It could have had an issue with the ejector. Whatever it was a problem. And it turned the value of getting this AR Stoner upper into much less of a value because, oh, you get a charging handle, you get a bolt carrier group, and you get the upper for this low price. It's amazing. And then you find out you got to replace the bolt carrier group anyway. So this total build right here, which is an AR Stoner build on an Aero Precision lower, was around $550 with the carry handle, sights, and everything included, right? So $550, magazine and everything. Well, now you got to add the cost of a new bolt carrier group, okay? 160, 180 bucks. I mean, these days you can get a Noveski for around the same price as an Aero Precision. So 170 bucks, you get a high quality bolt carrier group. Awesome. But now this is a $720 rifle. And how much ammo did I spend in order to figure out that there was a problem and then to troubleshoot the problem? Well, I mean, in total we shot, I don't know, 196 rounds through this gun. Throughout just this video, right? So, I mean, you tell me how much that costs, but these days, I mean, that's around $100. So that's what, 820 bucks? And then all these new AR-15 owners who are being steered in the direction of buying something inexpensive due to budget are then what? Spending all that money getting new parts, going through ammo, also having to maybe acquire tools in order to change out some of the parts or try to work on the gun itself. After everything's said and done, did you actually save money from buying something from a more reputable manufacturer that would have worked properly right out of the box? And that's something I just really want everyone here to consider. I'm not suggesting anyone who's new to AR-15s to get an AR Stoner complete upper or any AR Stoner components, in all honesty. If you can't trust them and you don't have the know-how or the troubleshooting capability in order to fix the issue, then why would you want to rely on a rifle like that? It's just not worth the risk. It's better for you to save up a little more money and get something better quality. I don't know what to say. And look, Midway USA is a huge supporter of the channel. They're a great partner. I really appreciate them, but I'm not suggesting this AR Stoner stuff to anybody who doesn't have the experience to make it work properly. And at that point, once you have that experience, you're usually not really interested in getting stuff of this level of quality because you now understand what it is you're actually receiving. And it's just part of the deal. How else do you sell components at this price point without cutting corners? You have to cut corners somewhere. Generally, it's going to be in QC or quality control. And then you also have the materials being used and the specs and the machining process and everything else that comes together to provide you with a questionable situation like this one. And of course, the BCM bolt carrier group solved a lot of our problems almost immediately, right? But that's an upgrade and a substantial one, which you could have just started with if you bought a rifle from a decent company. And look, I'm saying this to new owners out there. People are going to tell you that you can get a $500 AR and it's going to be just as good or whatever they want to say, right? But if you don't have the experience or the know-how to troubleshoot issues or to tune a gas system or to work on these rifles, I mean, do you have an armorer's wrench or do you have a pin punch set or any of those things that are required? Because now we're talking adding another 60 bucks here, another 30 bucks there. It all adds up. And I would rather see people who don't have that experience buy something that they can actually protect themselves with, buy something that'll work right out of the box that they can get out on the range with and start practicing with without having to worry about all those little things, right? And it's easy for people with a lot of experience with AR-15s to just say, oh yeah, you can fix that right up, or it's easy fix, tune it, no problem, or whatever. But that's because you have that experience. Go back to when you had your very first AR-15 and tell me just how much experience you had. Tell me about how you knew exactly what a forward assist even was for, right? You got to take yourself out of your shoes and put it into a new AR-15 owner's perspective to see how that could be problematic, right? You want something you can rely on, not something you have to go around trying to fix. And then once that person goes through the process of trying to fix it, are they ever going to feel fully comfortable that the rifle's going to work properly? We all know that feeling of the first time you pull a trigger on a gun and it doesn't shoot, right? Like that's a bad feeling. And I mean, that's exactly what we had happen with this whole test, right? The very first round was a malfunction because of a bad BCG. But who would have known that if they had no experience at all, right? I'm trying to help people get something that's going to do the job, not just something they can make work, because that takes more than just the hopes and dreams of wanting it to work properly, right? So that's why I'm trying to address new AR-15 owners as well as you experienced folks out there too, because it's easy for someone like me to be like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal. But I have all the tools. I have the experience. And yes, I know someone's going to tell me right now in the comments below how their budget-friendly AR has worked perfectly, right? It was with intent. It's a perfect weapon. It's never had a single malfunction, right? How often are you shooting it? Are you putting it through any rapid fire? How hard are you pushing it? Are you at an indoor range where you can only shoot 1 round per second? I mean, there's a lot of things you have to put into perspective when it comes to that. I was only getting stovepipes when I was pushing this gun, but you should be able to push your gun without it malfunctioning. That's just part of the deal. And the other thing to keep in mind is that you might get an affordable AR that just works right. That can happen 100%. I'm not trying to argue that. But you're mitigating the risk of it having problems by buying something of better quality to begin with. I don't know what else to say. It would be easy for me to sit here and just lie to everybody and be like, yo, get an AR Stoner, it's the best thing on the planet, also my sponsor, right? But that's not my job here. I'm trying to get people something capable that they can feel good about and get out on the range and train with. And I have owned all the things you guys are suggesting, I promise you. Anderson, Palmetto State Armory, DPMS, Ruger even. The only budget-friendly AR I haven't owned personally is a Smith & Wesson M&P, okay? Just about anything else you can think of, I've owned, I've shot, and I've probably had a problem with at some point in time. For example, I had a PSA buffer tube that was out of spec, and it would make the stock canted because the end plate channel was out of spec. These things just happen. It's just part of the deal. You are saving money somewhere, and it's not just because of someone's goodness of their heart, right? So, and I'm not telling you got to go buy something expensive necessarily either. For how much it cost for me to get this thing up and running, to get the first to try out the new parts, new buffer weights, maybe the SOP mod bolt upgrade kit, right? So that's like almost 60 bucks. Then I realized that didn't work. So throw in a new bolt carrier group. That's 170 bucks. Oh yeah, the almost 200 rounds of ammo I spent trying to figure it all out. Okay, that's 100 bucks. Like all that adds up. And guess what? By the end of that, I could have just bought something a little bit more expensive, but better right out of the box. And personally, I've owned a SIG M400 tread that was 100% perfect to go right out of the box. And it was right at around $1,000 is what I bought it for. I never had a single issue with that gun. Not one malfunction, ever. So, and I'm not trying to suggest you get an M400 tread. I'm just giving you an example as to how that all equates in the long run, especially for newbies who don't have the know-how or the tools or the parts or the experience to actually do these things. Is it a good learning process? Sure. But I kind of changed my mind about my suggestion in that regard these days. I don't think you should build your first AR anymore. Not with the way the world is right now. My suggestion now is to buy a quality, complete AR from a reputable manufacturer first. Because if something goes wrong, you can send it in and they can fix it for you and you can get it back up and running or whatever. But in general, it has a higher likelihood of not having something go wrong. And then you need to build your next AR. So you can learn the ins and outs of the AR-15, so you can understand how all the parts work and how or what tools you'll need and everything else in regards to that. And then by doing that process, you'll acquire all these extra parts, all these tools and everything else in order to maintain and keep those rifles, your first factory complete, that's good to go. And now your new home build that you are familiar with, you can keep both of those rifles up and running now because you have all the necessary components. But during that process, you've always had old reliable, ready to go, either in the safe or nearby preferably, right? And so you're not worried about, hey, if that day comes or if something bad happens, is this gun gonna work? No, that's not a question you wanna have to ask yourself. Sorry, I don't know what else to say. I know some of you are gonna get mad. This is just my personal experience, which is what this entire YouTube channel has always been. I'm doing these things and then I'm just telling you what happened. I filmed all the malfunctions we saw with this rifle, and then I filmed how it ran fine with the new bolt carrier group. But I also just increased the overall cost of this rifle, and I don't really particularly even really like this rifle, right? I'm just spending more money on it now. So let me know in the comments below any similar experiences. Or let me know in the comments below how your even cheaper rifle is just 100% perfect and much better than this one, because I get it. I know. And yes, that is possible. It's not impossible. I know there are cheap guns out there that just work 100% of the time, right? I know there's a Taurus out there that's 100% reliable. But in the grand scheme of things, will a Taurus work perfectly outside of the box more often than a Glock? Tell me in the comments, please, right? It's just like in cars. For some reason, people like to say, you know, oh, don't buy that car, it's no good, or it's not very reliable, or it breaks down all the time. Make sure, just get something practical, like a Honda Civic, or, you know, get something more reliable over time, like a Toyota, you know? But when it comes to guns, for some reason, everyone's like, yeah, just get a Jeep Wrangler, you'll figure it out. As time goes on, you'll have to learn how to fix it and stuff, and you'll buy a lot of expensive tools in the process, but yeah, it'll be fine, right? No one does that. So why do we do it here?